Hello everyone, my name is Diana Gdenko. Today I'll be presenting a PowerPoint presentation on an interview that I did with someone in their late adulthood. Before we begin my presentation on this interview, I would like to set up the nature of the setting. This interview was done in an office setting. It was a modern and active place where you could hear some commotion in the other rooms. In this office space, there was quiet music playing and you could hear the snores of the dog that lay beneath my feet. I chose to do the interview towards the end of the day, which allowed natural light to come in through the floor-to-ceiling windows. To give you a higher depth of perception, this interview was done in a high-income area. This office space is family-oriented and is open to different cultures and beliefs. The woman I chose to do the interview posed a variety of worldviews due to some major events that occurred during her child and adulthood. As you can see here, I interviewed a woman who was in her late 60s. She was born and raised in the state of Colorado. This is actually where she met her husband, got married, and actually has been married for the past 46 years. This is also the place they started their own family, and actually had a son. Although her family is fairly small, this makes up for those that work with her. She does own her own business in the contact lens field and has for the past 30 years. To continue on, here are some childhood events that had occurred. So during her childhood, she did go through some major changes that not many children go through. Some kids go through having their parents get a divorce, while others are being abused. However, this woman had both happen to her. This greatly impacted her development. At the age of 6, her parents got a divorce. She remembers the day her dad left home. She came home from kindergarten, and all the furniture was gone. All she remembers doing was waving bye to her father as he loaded everything up in the van and left. A year later, actually, her mom was remarried to a man who had 3 of his own children, so this changed the dynamic for her and her sister. Although after a few short months, they began to be abused by their stepfather as well. Although this individual told me about being abused, we did not go into further detail due to her sensitivity about it. I also felt a little bit uncomfortable to ask because I was worried that it might bring something up that might still be hurting her. And lastly, we actually spoke about her being diagnosed with scoliosis. This is actually a sideways curvature of the spine that occurs just before puberty. For this woman, it actually occurred around the age of 11. With everything that she was going through at that moment, she was diagnosed and had to go through major changes physically and emotionally. Till this day, she has had to go to a chiropractor twice a week because it is not curable and she still has problems due to it every day. This shows that her health has not been in the best shape since she was young, based on her childhood due to divorce, abuse, and the remarriage. As she grew up, she actually found it hard to make any real connections with anyone around her. And as this individual grew up from being a child to becoming a woman, there are adulthood events that made an impact in her life. Getting married was actually one of the most impactful events that occurred due to her bad relationship with her parents and having only one sister. She finally someone she felt close to. Actually, as Dongping Zhang states, that researchers have shown that adults who have suffered maltreatment during childhood tend to have poor interpersonal relationships. And actually, you could tell that throughout her life that she didn't actually have any close friends or any close relatives for that being. And her husband was actually the first close relationship she had regarding her family. After being married, she started working for an ophthalmologist, and after a few short months, she was actually laid off due to the company going bankrupt. She actually had to find another job. However, she could only find the one that offered a part-time. And then from there, she became more focused on her work ethic. She felt undervalued, and however, within a year, she was laid off once again due to cutbacks. This was definitely impacted her life because she felt hurt and undervalued. She felt discarded. After finally having enough of being laid off twice, she decided to open up her own business. It was a rough startup and had a hard time finding building to get rent in. And actually 8 months down the line, someone she entrusted with regarding the finances, he had actually embezzled over 50 grand. She was being turned away from bankers and was being told that she needs to file bankruptcy. She actually eventually took out a loan from under her home and paid everything off. It was a very dramatic time for her, and still seems to be. She talked about this man with hate and frustration. She explained that about 10 years ago he died from an unknown disease and called this karma. Throughout her major events, she actually had a strong cognitive health. She was very smart, driven, and she actually still seems to power through any problems that occur. Let's see, and continuing on down to loss. This individual actually has experienced loss throughout her life, as everyone else has. However, her story is a little bit different as everyone else's. The first time she experienced loss was when her father left her after the divorce. As of now, she has lost everyone that she did care about. Both her father and stepfather passed away from old age, as well as her in-laws. Growing up, she actually never had the time, the love, or the care from either of her grandparents, because they did pass away before she was born. So the only people she actually has left now is her mother, her husband, as well as her son, and her sister that does have her own family. This is actually what she stated she hates about life, is the loss. However, due to all this loss, she actually does not cope well. She breaks down and pretends that none of it is happening. She seems to always be in denial. During the interview, she began to express her emotions and started to cry. This is actually a very touchy subject for her. She explains that she really does fall apart, and part of her feels that the more people she loses, the less people she has that will love her. She can't imagine her mother passing away and knows that when it does, she'll be broken for a long time. She actually does not cope at all from what I noticed during the interview. She was actually seemed a bit emotionally unstable just due to all the events that were happening throughout her life. However, part of what helped her was religion. So religion was a major part of her life. This individual believes that she does have a special connection with God. Although she does refer to him as her gut, she does believe in him and Jesus who died on the cross for her sins. When she was younger, she never attended church, yet knew who God was. Her parents actually never pushed her and her sister to do so. However, in her 20s, she was curious and began to attend church. Although she is a Christian, she does not attend church anymore. She actually did state that this is due to her crying uncontrollably when she does go. There was a time in her life when she believed in God. There was actually this big snowstorm on October 15th, 1997. Her husband was gone, and they lived in Monument. And at that time, she actually worked for an ophthalmologist. And the doctor was gone, and she felt that God was telling her that she needed to leave work early. At around 12 o'clock, she just had this weird feeling that she just needed to go home. But she actually stayed until 2 p.m. and decided to go home then. Her son would have been coming home by now from school. And actually, as she approached Monument, God was telling her to stop by the grocery store. She actually stopped by to buy some stuff and wasn't in there for 30 minutes. By the time she actually stepped outside, there was already 5 inches of snow on the ground. She made it home to her son. She clearly remembers staring out the window and watching how people were unable to get up the hill to get their homes. Within 24 hours, they actually had 54 inches of snow. So God told her to go, and she did. She remembers being so thankful that God told her to do so. Till this day, she always feels that God is always there for her. Whenever she has a bad gut feeling, she won't do something. However, if it's telling her to do so, she will and never regrets it. Now, throughout her life, and based on this interview, I did conclude that this individual does have integrity. Although she is happy with her life, she does wish she could go back in time and change her childhood. She feels as if she could go back and change the divorce and the abuse, she would have a completely different childhood. However, she also believes that if it wasn't for the abuse and her father leaving, she would not be where she is now. She worked hard and made sure that she went through, she works hard and actually made sure that what she went through, her son wouldn't have to, or her grandchildren. She would not have been so driven or motivated to work hard for everything in life. She's actually happy with her life with her husband and son, and she can definitely imagine a future of her son and how it will be once they have grandchildren. And she's actually not afraid of dying. And as Kale and Kavanagh state, that someone who has integrity has come to terms with the choices and events that has made his or her life unique. And that is what I had based it on, was that I believe she does have integrity. Now, my overall experience was actually an eye-opener through this presentation and this interview and this project. I actually believe that I see this woman in a new light, and I understand why she is the way she is. In the beginning of the assignment, I was actually having a hard time choosing which option to go with, whether the observation of children or an interview on someone in their late adulthood. I'm actually so glad I chose the second option. I feel that I know more of her now, and we have a close connection with each other. I'm also very grateful that she was very open about her life with me. Most of what she spoke about would have been tough for anyone to talk about. Well, actually, someone you barely know, it would be really tough. Overall, I'm actually very grateful for this experience and the opportunity to learn about someone that is now close to me. And then below, I have actually included the 2 references I used, which was from our textbook of Kale and Kavanagh, and then the other one I did find in the Clifton Library, and I have also included that below. Thank you for watching my presentation. Bye.